Hello and welcome. Welcome to LIBS Bitesize with the topic today, Global Competency. Are you intercultural ready? My name is Sabine Gerlach. I'm a senior lecturer in marketing at the University of Lincoln. However, my role expands to loads of international work. I'm the college lead for study abroad, the regional academic lead for Germany, and I'm also working on a strategic Chinese partnership with Guizhou University. So internationalization is a big topic at the Lincoln International Business School. And our session today should provide you a snapshot about what is global competencies, why do we need it, and how do we assess global competencies. I'd like to introduce you then to an example of an international field trip to Sri Lanka and the evaluation of our students' competencies before and after the voluntary field trip. We're looking here at experiences, knowledge, skills, and understanding. And all of this should provide you with an insight in how we can strengthen global competencies of students by embedding international field trips or any other outward mobility in our curriculum. I'm happy to take any questions afterwards, and I will also leave you with some thinking points going forward. So let's start first. What is global competency? So today's world is highly interconnected, diverse, and rapidly changing, as we have seen with the pandemic last year as well. So this presents an opportunity, but also a challenge to our societies. So in order to strive in a very complex environment, global competence is crucial for individuals. So what is it? Global competencies is seen as a multidimensional capacity. So looking at the definition provided by the OECD, global competent individuals can examine local, global, and intercultural issues. They understand and appreciate different perspectives and worldviews, and we interact successfully and respectfully with others to take responsible actions towards sustainability, as well as looking at collective well-being. So, competence, it's not just a specific skill. It's actually a combination of knowledge, skills, attitudes, and values, as you can see in this diagram over here. So we're not teaching towards learning a skill. We're looking at building blocks of the global competencies, all four. And to give you an example, when examining a global issue, for example, climate change, global warming, pandemic, refugee crisis, and so on, it requires, first of all, knowledge of a particular issue, then a skill to transform this awareness into a deeper understanding about what's going on, and then we develop individual attitudes and values to reflect on the issue, and we need to take into consideration multiple perspectives and also keeping interests of all parties involved in mind. And how can we do this? So we can have an education for global competencies, but it is built on the idea of various models of global education. So it takes from intercultural education, global citizenship education, education for democratic citizenship. So it is very complex and doesn't provide us with a straightforward solution. Nonetheless, looking at all this, global competency cannot be taught in a module or even a degree program. So it is fostered through a lifelong process. So how can we equip students or young people with a skill which is so necessary for our today's society without even being able to teach this skill within a program? So as my colleague Martin Knight shared with me the analogy about language learning, which is quite similar to competency learning. So it's a lifelong process and you never get to the end of language learning, he said to me. So it's continuous, and even for me, after spending 14 years studying, working in an English-speaking environment, I always learn new words, phrases, and expression even though I've been living here for 14 years. And to share with you, this week I learned the word loom, the machine to make cloth, which I wasn't aware of before. So yeah, there are new words and expression, and it's a lifelong process. So when we're looking at what the European higher education arena is wanting to achieve, is to have a lifelong learning journey, and global competencies is just part of it. But despite this never-ending continuous journey, universities, schools, education providers can actually play a significant role in equipping students with opportunities to think, reflect, and practice to advance their development on these global competencies. But do we need it? So my second point, why do we actually need global competencies? Global competencies provide many benefits to the individual, organization, employers, and most of all, our society. So by strengthening global competencies, we can have a more inclusive and thriving society in all. And I'm just going to mention 4 points which we can look out as benefits for global competencies. The first one is to live harmoniously in a multicultural community. So when you look at your neighborhood, school or city, is it multicultural? Do you see people from different cultures and nations working and being together? So education for global competencies can promote cultural awareness and respectful interactions in our increasingly diverse society. And by appreciating the differences in our community, and we can have a sense of belonging, the sense of the nation, region, city, neighborhood, school, or university. And so people, young people, students, everyone can learn to live together as a global citizen. Second point is, global competencies is important to thrive in a changing labor market. So education for global competencies can actually boost employability. Effective communication, working within diverse teams are key to success in many, many jobs. So as technology has shown us over the last year, we can connect with people all over the world, and we continue to make it easier to connect with people all over the globe and work in multicultural teams. So employers are actively seeking learners who can easily adapt and are able to apply and transfer their skills into new contexts and new areas. The third point is to use media platforms effectively and responsibly. As mentioned before, so the digital technologies has really transformed our lives, not just during the past year, but in general. It provides us with a different outlook of the world. And when looking at last year, the online networks platform provided new types of learning for students at the university, at school, and all over the world. And the students now have greater control over what and how they learn based on the technology. But at the same time, the digital lives can cause them to disconnect from the world we're living in at the moment. And so we have unlimited access to information, which is brilliant on one hand, but paired with insufficient media literacy, people are vulnerable to bias or fake news, and they might be easily fooled online. So this gives another reason for educating people for global competencies, which can help us to actually work in digital spaces, capitalize those more, and also better understand the world we live in and express our voices online. The fourth benefit I put down is to support our sustainable development goals. So educating for global competencies can actually form new generations who care about global issues. They can engage in tackling social, political, economic, and even environmental challenges. And when we're looking at the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, it actually critically recognizes the role of education to reach those sustainability goals, and we should look forward to working towards them together collectively. But how do we access global competency? So looking at the Organization for Economic and Cooperation Development, the OECD, they're assessing actually global competencies in the Program for International Student Assessment, the PISA study. But we only assess 15-year-old students, and only since 2018. So the PISA study is carried out among testing math, science knowledge, reading, and also in global competencies alongside. So students usually complete a cognitive assessment, background questionnaire, and this helps countries to improve their educational policies and outcomes. So at the moment, 79 countries take part in the PISA study, which gives us a broad geographic view and different cultural contexts included. So yes, 15-year-olds are tested on the global competencies. But what happened after school? What happened when people go to university or in the world of work? How do we examine global competencies there? At the moment, there's really limited research in this area, whether it's even necessary to look at global competencies after school. So when providing outward mobilities, as we do at the Lincoln International Business School, in form of study abroad, international field trips, and different partnerships. So I felt that international field trips are ideally placed to deepen a range of skills and providing students the opportunity to practice global competencies. So going on an international field trip provides you with an understanding of different cultures. You become more acquaintance to the country, learn some language, and it becomes more meaningful when experienced instead of just learned from a textbook. In my department, the Marketing, Language and Tourism department at the Lincoln International Business School, we have an established history of international field trip, which is going back to 2003, and we have taken students across the world to Mexico, Cuba, Tunisia, Vietnam, Hong Kong, Malta, Italy, and the list goes on. We were very lucky that in the academic year 19 to 20, we were able to facilitate various field trips to the Czech Republic, India, and Sri Lanka. And today I would like to introduce you to the field trip to Sri Lanka. So, can we get the slide, please? Oh, it's me. So, there we go. So, we offered students the opportunity to participate in a voluntary field trip to Sri Lanka as part of the Crisis and Disaster Management module. This module is taught about various programs and embedded in the tourism management program. But those field trips are also applicable for a wider range of students, from accountancy and finance to marketing, because the activities we embed in the field trip support the understanding of cultural, social, and environmental issues, as well as political and religious tensions in the countries and their implications. So students take part in workshops, guest lectures, but also visits to the disaster management centers, local and regional disaster zones. And when you look at the picture over there, this is our students and the Ministry of Disaster Management in Sri Lanka, where we were invited for a talk about disaster recovery. Our students also go out to volunteer in the community while abroad and looking at the tourism development and cultural heritage site and visit local businesses. So all in all, it's a well-rounded educational visits, but not only through lectures and workshops, but the learning takes place with hands-on activities in the community in that particular country. So I thought this would be a brilliant opportunity to evaluate students' global competencies before they're going out and when returning from an international field trip. And now I'm going to share with you the results. So we asked students to explain their motivations, expectations, and also global competencies on various themes, from awareness of global issues, perspective taking, adaptability, up to respect for people from different cultural backgrounds. So there were loads of themes and various statements where students have to decide whether they're familiar with this or they never heard of this before in order to access their global competencies. And all the questions were based on the PISA study, which I introduced earlier. So what did it show us? There we go. This is just a short overview of the information the students provided us. But they filled in the survey before and after the trip, so we could make comparison about their global competencies. And as you see, as first one, it's a perspective taking, and you can see that it increased significantly. For I believe that there are two sides to every question, and I try to look at them, and I try to look at everybody's sides of disagreement before I make a decision. So the perspective taking was really emphasized in the field trip to Sri Lanka because students put themselves in the shoes of local Sri Lankans. So they volunteered alongside them, they worked with them, they not just had a conversation, but they were also invited to their houses for meals. This really provided them with a different perspective to life and highlighted the challenges and problems they face in their day-to-day life in Sri Lanka. Now, when looking at adaptability, we can also see change behavior to meet the needs of new situation and ability adapt easily to new cultures. This all increased just after a 2-week field trip to Sri Lanka. And why did the student think it increased? Because they were exposed to situations they've never been before in the different cultures they've never experienced. So they really had to be adaptable to what's going on in order to thrive and take part in all the activities we provided. And it is lovely to see that the students actually increased on this particular skill, adaptability, because it's so important than never before, and a skill which is thought after by employers in different business areas. And here are further photos of our field trip. And on the top left corner, you can see our students helping out at the Buddhist Sunday school, where they help school children with English. On the top right, you see our students in the cultural center, which is run by abuse victims and perpetrators who taught to make baskets and sell them. But the beauty of it is that the center is run by Buddhists, Muslims, and Hindus, so different religions together. On the top left, you can see our students having a formal talk by the disaster management center. And on the bottom right, you can see our students dressed in a traditional sari, just about to go out to meet with the locals who have contributed to our program. So all in all, the whole field trip didn't just support the assessment component of the module, it really brought the module to life. Students were able to observe the post-disaster recovery and contingency planning in place. They had volunteering activities, which were social and environmental volunteering, and they really understood the issues or range of issues faced by the Sri Lankan, and see the country and also evaluate the tourism potential post-tsunami 2014 and post-flooding as well. So this has brought the experience to life. We could not just teach from a textbook, but it was so much more regarding the development of global competencies. And please allow me to read out Emma's feedback. So Emma has been a business and marketing student who took part in the trip last year. And I would like to read out how actually the trip changed her life and how she developed global competencies along the way. So this is from Emma. From the field trip to Sri Lanka, I have a greater understanding of different cultures and the way in which other people live. The trip broadened my outlook on life and helped me to appreciate the opportunities that I have living in the UK. I felt very humbled visiting different parts of Sri Lanka. For example, when I visited a tea plantation, I was exposed to a way of life that I had not seen before. The women grew up in small villages that were owned by the tea plantation owner, remained in these villages for their whole lives, and would become tea pickers, regardless whether they wanted to or not. These women were given no opportunities for further education and to work outside the tea plantation. And this really resonated with me and helped me to reflect on the lives that I'm so lucky to have. However, whilst this was upsetting and difficult for me to understand that these people would never see the world outside of the plantation, as well as living in poor condition, these people were so happy and content, constantly smiling and welcoming us into their neighborhood and homes. The resilience and contentment of these women were really uplifting and made it clear to me that true happiness does not come from material things. The impact of the trip has made me want to make a true difference to the world, either through my career or in my spare time by supporting charities to help to positively impact people's lives. So Emma participated in a 2-week field trip, and it really turned her life around and will impact on so many more lives because she reflected on the things she has seen. She has now the knowledge that she can make a difference and develop a positive attitude to support others and appreciating what she has. So this has been really amazing, and that we could play a small part in the development. You might think, okay, field trips, we couldn't make any of the field trips over the last 12 months because of the global pandemic. How do we develop global competencies then? We have worked with our dear partners at the Windesheim Applied Science University in the Netherlands, and put on a virtual exchange program where students from 7 different universities participated in a business simulation and showed that they have a cultural understanding, meet the team, and work in culturally diverse teams, which also impacted on the development and practice of their global competencies. And while we were not physically able to go out, our global experience team have already done many online events, from sharing cook-alongs, where we learned more about the Indian cuisine and different parts of the world, which also help to see how culturally diverse the world is and how different tastes are available and cultures actually react towards the pandemic. So big thank you to putting all the different events on and keeping students engaged and to practice their global competencies to our global experience team. So to summarize, universities and schools definitely play a crucial part in helping young people to develop global competencies. And we should, if we can, consider all 4 dimensions in the curriculum. So this is knowledge, skills, values, and attitudes. And we need to provide the students with lots of experience to actually have the appreciation of different people, languages, and cultures, whatever it will look like. International field trip might just be one vehicle to do this. So universities are really uniquely positioned to enhance young people's ability to understand their place in the community and in the world, and the ability to make judgment and take actions. And this is what I would leave you with. So thank you for watching, and I invite you if you have any questions which I can answer or may be able to answer. So thank you so much.